How you doing this morning, church? Oh, okay, that's kind of good. Let's try one more time then. Maybe you just need to warm up. I thought we had 20 minutes to warm up already, but let's get it back in gear. How you doing this morning, church? There we go. Better. You got it. Awesome, because I know what's going to happen. I know you're going to get home today, and then when the Patriots are on TV and when the whoever you watch is on TV, if you can get it, maybe you're watching the NFL Network, whatever you're doing, and you're checking out the team. I know when your team's driving down the field, you're going to be yelling and cheering them on. So we need to be yelling and cheering here at Faith Church as we're gathered together this morning to not just to worship God, but to come together and to be His family and to be on the same team as Tiffany mentioned earlier as we kick things off. I want to, encourage you to make sure, as you saw in the video, to pick up one of those Operation Christmas Child boxes on your way out before you leave here today. If you've done one or two, do 2 or 3 more, right? There's no reason not to do more. Feel free to grab them at any point today when we're doing our break here in a few minutes or when you're leaving. Just make sure that you get one because we want to get as many of these boxes out as possible. We want to run out of boxes is what we want to do. So make sure you're grabbing as many as you can, as often as you can. Each month we're going to be hitting this to remind you to get engaged with Operation Christmas Child in case you're like me and you're like, well, it's what month are we in? We're still in September, right? So why do I need to worry about Christmas? Well, guess what? It's coming. It's coming a lot faster than we want to think about. And so our Operation Christmas Child Collection Day is actually the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So you don't quite have as much time as you might think. So make sure you're grabbing those boxes this week so that you're not behind later on in the year. I also want to encourage you, as Molly mentioned, that we engage in prayer. We spoke 2 weeks ago about the necessity for prayer over one another and for this community. Because what the reality of it is, and we're in this series that we're talking about this, is that we're in a fight. And when we're in a fight, what you need is you need people that when you're getting hit verbally, when you're getting hit emotionally, that whenever you are wanting to cover up or whatever you want to lash back out to those in your life, that you need to train yourself. We all need to train ourselves to instead come to God in prayer before we do anything else. And so this prayer day that we have set aside for the month is a perfect opportunity to come and pray not only for your life and what God is doing in it, but for the lives of those sitting to your right and to your left. Those who are going to be here in this space in future Sundays and the future events that we have here, people you stand next to, people you have neighbors that you live next to, you need to be praying. We highly encourage you, if you don't have anything else to pray for, pray over your community that you live in. Whether it's here in Pownell, North Adams, wherever, engage in that activity because as we mentioned 2 weeks ago, you're not just entering into like just a random conversation. You're calling down heaven to earth through those conversations, through prayer. So I want to encourage you, this coming Thursday, get engaged in prayer. You're going to not regret it when you do. It's also the perfect time to live that out because we are going through our current series called Into the Fight this morning. All right, we've been started off last week with the first episode, if you want to call it that, the first part of this Into the Fight series. And we're talking about fighting because we're going through what was written in the Bible as a letter to the Philippians. And that's what it's called in the Bible, Philippians. And we kick this series off with a look at 3 keys to victory when you find yourself fighting mentally, emotionally, or spiritually with people and situations in your life. And this week, we're going to talk about your fighting style. How do you fight, right? Styles make fights is the great saying if you're into sports or you're into boxing. Depending on how you match up to the fight you're in is depending on how successful you're going to be. So how do we change our fighting style to be able to accommodate what God is calling us to do in the fights of our lives? And this week is the perfect week to do that because it's Sports Team Sunday. It's one of my favorite days of the entire year because as Walt, who is at home probably watching online right now, saying that, especially in the South where I grew up, is Jesus, sports, family, and then everything else, right? So it's super important. Food's maybe fourth, and maybe family after food. I don't know, but it's somewhere down there. But sports is ingrained in who I am and who we are. I think it is American culture. We're repping our favorite teams today. We're going to have amazing food outside. I've already smelled some things that's brought in. I saw some jalapeno poppers with cream cheese, or what is it, cream cheese? What do we got in there? Cream cheese and bacon wrapped, smoked. Oh my goodness, we've got ribs. We got so many good things. The youth are helping out this morning by going outside. They're going to be grilling and setting up the food for us. There's cornhole out there. We're going to be playing a game later, a few games with cups, with solo cups, just like we're tailgating. We're going to do head, shoulders, knees, and cup. We're going to do tic-tac-toe flipping cups. We're going to do a whole bunch of cool stuff. So if you're competitive like me, get ready. You're going to have some fun with us this afternoon as we get into that. One thing I love about sports, though, is I believe in our society today, it's the most perfect blend of God-given talent and hard work. You see in these sports that we watch, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, you see men and women who have all the tools, right? And some of them are great athletes and they're amazing people, but they have no work ethic. And so they may not make it to the very top. And you see some who have no physical tools. You'll see, all these guys out there playing and all these gals out there playing and think, man, they don't have anything, but yet they're working harder than everybody. And so they can still somehow outwork everybody and succeed there, right? The pinnacle of those in those sports, whether it be any sport you're talking about, is those who have both the tools and those who have the ethics, right? The work ethic to give in. Both those traits combined equip them to be the pinnacle, the very best of what they do. The whole goal in all of sports is to be bigger, faster, stronger, more mentally tough than the competition. It's bad English, but the phrase I love to think about when I think about sports is weak don't win. Weak doesn't win. It just doesn't work. Now, I know that we're not athletes, at least not all of us. Christian's looking pretty buff back there in his jersey, so maybe he's an athlete. He plays amazing basketball, by the way. But we're not on that level of the people we're going to watch on TV today in this sports season. But in the fights of our lives, in work, in school, even in spiritual fights, I believe we buy into this same mentality that we need to be strong, we need to be self-reliant, we need to build ourselves up so that when we find ourselves under attack, we have the ability to fight from a position of strength. That's our mindset, right? So when you're at work, and you want to work harder than the rest. You want to be more competent than the rest, to be the one others look for answers when they run into problems. They can come to you and say, man, Erica, I know you got all the answers. You've been here longer. You've worked the hardest. You're here early. You're stay late. Can you help me out with this, right? You want to be that strong person in your workplace. When you're at school, you got to be mentally tough. Man, I'm so grateful I'm not in school these days. Man, thank you, Jesus, for a multitude of reasons. But one, because you got to be mentally tough in school. So mentally tough because you're going to have friends you thought you could trust who are going to betray you, right? How do you handle that mentally and emotionally? When bullies go out of their way to make you feel small, how do you handle that? If you just go home not feeling like a failure, that's a win that day when you're coming out of the school system. In relationships, maybe, if you think, man, I need somebody, most people consider that a sign of failure in your life. You don't need anybody. You should be able to take care of yourself. And so we think we have to be strong to help people who aren't strong, even in spiritual matters. We love verses like we're more than conquerors, right? We love verses that says, I can do all things. We love stories. I was talking about with Steve. Steve's over here. Steve on Wednesday said, I love the story of Samson taking the jawbone of a donkey and just killing 1,000 men in one battle. That's a really manly, strong thing. And it's like, oh, these are amazing stories and amazing verses because in our culture, we're soaked in self-help, self-care, self-strength that views anything else as weak. I mean, well, how else would we win? How else will we win in our relationships, in our marriages, in work, in school, and all these things we're in? How do we win if we're not strong? We're going to find out. And we're going to look at Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 through 11 to do that. But before we do, we're going to take a quick break. But don't mentally check out on me yet. Don't do that yet. You can check out on me in a minute, just not right now. Before we get there, I want to thank you, and I want to invite you into something Faith is doing each and every week. It was mentioned during the announcements, there's no Faith Kids during Faith Family Sunday. We are big on multi-generational church. I love to see little kids interact with older, not old, just older adults, right? Love it. I love to see that. We love to have everybody from 0 to 100 around each other, interacting with each other. One, because it reflects the image of the church we see in the New Testament. And two, because there's just this immense value in sharing the experience and wisdom of those who are older with the enthusiasm and joy of those who are younger. It's just amazing to see those connections being made. And that's one reason why we do Faith Family Sundays upstairs with all these kids every single month. And it's amazing. I love it. But the other reason, what we also do is offer Faith Kids downstairs. And I want to encourage you because the other 3 weeks of the month are just as important in their lives as this one moment here this month. We get the opportunity to be able to pour into the lives of amazing kids as often as we can. Now, I know if you have kids, you're like, man, I spend time with my kids all week. It's exhausting, it's tiring, but they are a gift. They're an amazing gift. And if you're like me, I've got a 20, is he 20? Where is he at? I don't even know where he's at. He's over there somewhere. How old are you, 20? I don't know how old you are. Anyway, I got an older boy, and I got some younger kids, and time flies. Time flies. And I appreciate someone who somebody said I look younger today. Thank you. I think it's my baggy shirt. I think I mentioned it. But I understand that time goes quickly, and we have these amazing kids in our lives for just a blink of an eye. And we have an opportunity as a church, whether your kids are grown, whether you still have children, whether you don't have any kids at all, or maybe you're a grandparent. I don't know what your situation is. We have an opportunity, though, to pour into their lives, to speak into their lives abundant and eternal life, not just on Faith Family Sunday, but also down in Faith Kids. And so what we want to encourage you to do is we're praying, and we want you to be praying for you over your life and saying, is God calling me to sacrificially give 1 hour a month to pour into the lives of these kids here at Faith? Again, you might not have kids. You may have had your kids leave already. You may have said, man, Pastor, I just got rid of my kids, but I want to spend an hour a week with other kids. I don't know what your situation is. But what I want to encourage you to do is not think about what you want to do, not think about what you're qualified or not qualified to do. It's not about any of those things. It's about what is God speaking in your heart to do. What is he calling you to do? That's who we want to be down in Faith Kids, giving 1 hour a week to be able to pour into those children's lives, to show them the love and compassion and mercy and raise them up to be like Jesus. That's the best gift we could possibly give. So what I want to encourage you to do is while we're taking a break, I want you to take 1 minute of your day, and I want you to talk to Miss Tina. She's up here, and Sarah, they're both on the same row. Good for you. Both up here on the same row. Raise your hand. Thank you. Raise your hands, wave it around a little bit. All right. So I want you to talk with them and say, hey, even if there's an inkling, even just a little tug that says, all right, maybe this is me. And again, you don't have to be qualified. You don't have to be a parent or grandparent. Just if God is tugging on your heart, just go and speak to both of them and say, hey, I don't know what this looks like. Just tell me about it and get to know them, and they'll explain to you what the process is and how to get involved, because we want to surround these kids week in and week out and raise them up to be the next generation of those who are going to chase after Christ, as they're doing it even now. All right, so I encourage you to go find them. I also want to do this. While you're in the restroom, while you're talking to Sarah and Tina, and they're amazing, there's amazing women over there, I want you to make sure you grab some drinks if you haven't had a chance. Use the restroom if you haven't had a chance to do that. And then ask and answer this question amongst yourselves. All I want from you today is to name one famous athlete. Just one. No pressure. This is super simple. One famous athlete, all right? So let's talk about it, think about it. Let's roll back. We'll come back to it in about 3 or 4 minutes while we listen to another great song this morning. Get that song there, Jeremiah. Yeah, man. Okay, sweet. So awesome answers. And I think, as we just saw, just about anybody can name a famous athlete today, right? You can find one you know from your childhood, from your past, or from current times, and they're all easy to do because we can think of great personal accomplishments, great achievements, great team championships they won, but it can almost be impossible to name somebody who doesn't get all the accolades, right? For example, do you know this guy up here on this picture? No Boston Red Sox fans know this guy's picture? Nobody knows. That's right, you don't know him. His name is Ali Sanchez. I didn't think anybody would get this. Ali Sanchez, he's only played 2 games for the Red Sox so far this year. Matter of fact, he was traded from the Blue Jays to the Red Sox halfway through the year. He's had 2 at-bats. One was a strikeout. All right, I don't know what the other one was. Maybe it was a walk. I'm not sure. The only remarkable thing that Ali Sanchez has done this year didn't come with the Red Sox. It actually came with the Blue Jays, and he threw a 35-mile-per-hour pitch to strike a guy out. That's the only thing he's done this year of any remarkable thing at all. That's all he's done. The key thing about this, when you look at this guy up, when you saw him on the picture there, Ali Sanchez is there. There are lots of Ali Sanchez's across all sports. These relatively unknown guys that don't have all the tools to make it. They're good enough to make it to the league, which is impressive, but not good enough to be in the starting lineup day to day. You don't know their names. They're way better than any of us, to be sure, but not good enough to be famous. Nobody grows up wanting to be Ali Sanchez, right? We grew up wanting to be MJ, which is what you could have said, Hannah. Nobody would have known any difference. You could have just said MJ, and it would have thought Michael Jordan, or you could have thought Michael Jackson. It would have been fine. But you want to grow up being MJ. You want to grow up being Ken Griffey Jr. is what I thought about. You want to grow up being like Bo Jackson back in the 90s in my day. You want to be Mike Tyson. You named all those boxers. Mike Tyson was the boxer of my era before he bit the guy's ear, all right? So you wanted to be those people. You wanted to be the famous ones. You want to be bigger, faster, stronger than those around us. You want to be strong when things get hard, when things are tough, when tragedy strikes, when these things come out. How do we respond? And you think, I got to be strong in the moment, like those famous players, like those famous famous athletes. But what if the secret to a winning fight wasn't strength? What if the secret to a winning fight wasn't self-reliance? What if it wasn't empowerment or affirmation? But what if it was something else entirely? We're going to find out what that something else is by looking at Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. And we're going to go lightning round on this, guys, all right? Because I know we got kids in here, and if you're like my kids, they have attention spans of a gnat, all right? So we're going to hit it hard, hit it fast. So for all of those who have ADD or ADHD, you're going to be in great company this morning. We'll just make sure we go through. Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 and 2 says this. Paul, remember, he's in prison. He's writing this letter on threat of death. He's about to be executed for saying Jesus is Lord. The Philippians are under persecution. They are being daily called out for their beliefs and persecuted, ostracized, canceled. Everything is against these people. He says this in verse 2, chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. He says, so if there's any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. When you're in a fight, when you're in a mess, when tragedy is striking all around you, it's easy to start fighting with even those that are on your side. It's easy to fight with everybody, including those who are on your side. Paul is encouraging that young church in Philippi that despite persecution from those around them from confessing that Jesus is Lord, that now is not the time to start backbiting. Now is not the time to start getting at each other, but now is the time to rally around each other. That even though they are suffering for Christ, that even though they're standing up for truth and justice and righteousness and all things, that they're not doing anything that would hurt anybody else. Yet despite this persecution, he says the encouragement comes from the blessing of Christ, who is feeding into their lives day by day by day as he lives through them. They are to take comfort in him despite their circumstances, and they are to come together realizing that they are given his Spirit to live out this new life they are called to, and they are to do it together with a single-minded focus. Single-minded focus. Winning the fights in our lives, as we said last week, requires having somebody in your corner. But it goes beyond having one person in your corner, like we talked about last week. It means being part of a team. Now, I don't want to say that and be flippant at Sports Team Sunday. We're part of a team. No. I want you to really reflect on this. The local body, this church, this faith family isn't optional. It's essential. You're not volunteering. If you serve in Faith Kids 1 hour a week, if you come to our outreach and do food distribution to the community, when you're engaging in these activities, you're not volunteering at a nonprofit. You're entering into a bond, not an organization, but an organism where everybody is essential and needed to move forward together. We opt out. We think we're not needed. We think we're not essential, but I guarantee that you are needed here at Faith. I love football. It's one of my favorite sports. If I had to choose, if I could only watch one sport for the rest of my life, it'd probably be football. And I love it. And one reason I do is because football, American football, Chris and Phil, is the ultimate team sport. Just making sure we're not talking about soccer. All right. American football is the ultimate team sport because it takes all 11 players on the field, including coaches and support people on the sideline, to win. If there's one person that isn't mentally or physically in the game, not connected to their teammates on and off the field, not fully understanding or bought into the play that they are called to run, the whole thing falls apart. The whole thing. One person not in it will ruin the whole game. Just one. Church done right, the body of Christ at work, wins or loses together. When we check out of each other's lives or work against each other, you don't just lose, we all lose. So if you choose to fight from a position of self-reliance and strength in yourself, not only do you lose, you're robbing all of us of your participation. You think, I got this, I can take care of it, I don't need y'all, we suffer more than anything. Paul keeps going, Philippians 2, 3 through 4. He says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Sometimes to understand how to win, you have to know why you fail. We struggle when we go it alone. And in part, because of pride. Partially because of pride. Selfish ambition or rivalry that Paul parts out here is self-interest at the expense of someone else. It's an attitude which evaluates situations in terms of only how they benefit you. That's what rivalry is. Conceit is being fooled by our evaluation of ourselves. We build ourselves up thinking we're stronger than we actually are. So when we combine those two things, when you have an attitude which only evaluates situations in terms of how does it benefit me, what do I get out of it, and then also think of yourself, I'm strong enough to do whatever comes my way, we got a problem. We have a problem. Paul says the antidote to those things, because those things will ultimately kill you, the antidote to those things, how you start to win instead of lose, is humility. And what you mean by humility here is to put our lives in proper perspective and to consider others before ourselves, not because they're better than us, but because their needs and their concerns should take priority over our own. It's a way of life that requires trusting wholly in God and wholly in others and not ourselves alone. This was a problem, though, for the people at Philippi. Roman culture did not consider humility a virtue. Matter of fact, it was considered a weakness. Their culture said, show strength over all. And I think in our culture today, we struggle with that same thing. Our natural inclination is to make too much of ourselves and too little of others. We do it all the time. We like to think we're the quarterback, right? Going back to football analogy, we're the quarterback. We're getting everybody in the right position. We're putting everybody in place. We're making the right decisions. We're throwing that game-winning touchdown, when actually in reality, what Jesus calls us to is to be the left tackle. Now, for those of you who don't know football, the left tackle for a right-handed quarterback is the most important person on the entire team, all right? Because the left tackle, his entire job is to keep that quarterback upright and making sure he can throw the football, because the quarterback is turning this way, and if a defender's running behind him, he could just smash him from behind and just, one, hurt him bad, and then two, blow the whole play up and everybody loses. The left tackle, though, is never getting called out on the TV, right? We're talking about Patrick Mahomes. Look at that amazing throw as Pat throws that football. We're talking about, all these amazing quarterbacks on the field today that we look at. They do incredible things, and nobody focuses on that left tackle unless the left tackle screws up. That's the only time they're calling out the left tackle. Other than that, nobody's saying, man, look at that left tackle. He's doing an amazing job. But if without that left tackle doing his job, the right-handed quarterback's done. He fails. We want to be the quarterback. We want to be the winner on the field. We want to get the job done. We want to be the man and the woman who's going to be celebrated and honored and called out for what they do. But in reality, our job is to get beat up for somebody else. Our job is to take the blows, do whatever it takes so that others in our lives, especially in our church life, can stay upright, can stay functioning, and can fight back with us. We stress, we worry, we carry pain and anxiety, often because we're not willing to allow someone else to care for us. We hold it all in thinking nobody cares what I'm going through. But the reality is, if we can't carry someone else's burden, we can never let ours go. You think, I just got to be stronger. No. If you can't let go of your burden to let someone else carry it, you're never going to let it go. It's never going to go away. You will always carry it with you. Yet when we put others' needs above our own through humility, and we trust God will bring others along to carry our needs, then we start to find freedom. Then we start to find that release. It's not enough to say we need a team, and that to do that you need to get humbled or be humbled, but it also requires this. It requires changing our whole style of fighting. This is what Paul's going to drive to in verses 5 through 8. All right? He said you got to be on the same page. You got to fight for each other. Give up your interests. Think of someone above yourself. You have to do this. One mind focused in that. He says also you have to have this mind in verses 5 through 8. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Now you can listen to those words, you can hear, you can even read those words, and you can think, so what? But Paul's point here is what's going to change our entire lives. He's saying, look to Christ. Look to the one that you're saying is Lord, King over all. What did he do? Though he was fully God, the pre-existent Christ was not a grasping, selfish being. He could have been. The gods of the Greeks and Romans, they were powerful. They wanted to seek to show their power. They wanted to be revered. They have all these statues and things built to them. But no, Jesus came not as a grasping, selfish God, but one whose love for others found its fullest expression in pouring himself out, in taking on status as a slave, to humbling himself even to the point of death on behalf of those that he loved. This is huge. Jesus could have entered into history as the conquering hero. He could have been the quarterback. He could have been the star player who came in and saved all of human history at that point in time, forcing every knee to bow down, righting every wrong in that moment. Every tragedy in all of human history could have been averted there if he chose to come and make everyone submit to his will 2,000 years ago. But instead, he loved through humility. He who by nature is self-giving entered into history as a slave, not as an omnipotent God, but someone without advantages, someone without rights, someone without any privilege, knowing that it would lead to his death. Christ did what he did knowing that his ultimate end would be to die for those who would spit on him, who would persecute him, who would beat him, who would nail him to the cross, and he said, I will love them anyway. In a world filled with hate, in a world of division, in a world of stark ideologies that seem impossible to overcome, guess what? First, we are not alone in that. What was Jesus facing? The exact same thing. What were the Philippians facing years after? The exact same thing. So Paul points to Christ. He says, what do you do when those things are happening around you? He says, you humble yourself and you love others more than yourself. How would we choose to save those where we love when they're in the fight of their lives? Think about that for just a minute. I want you to think legitimately about this question. Someone you know is in the fight of their life. Maybe they're going through emotional struggle. Maybe they're going through a physical pain. Maybe they're going through a spiritual battle. How would we choose to save those we love who were losing the fight? You don't have to answer out loud. Think about that. I believe we would say we need to be strong. I would say we said, my spouse, my kids, my friends, they need me at full strength. They need me at my sharpest. They need me at my best. They need me at my most prepared. I need to have all the answers. I need to have the right resources. I got to have everything at my disposal so I can protect them, so I can defend them, so I can rally around them, so I can do everything I can to build them up. I got to be strong for that. I need to be the superstar. I need to be the one who takes over the game. I need to be the one who wills the team to victory because I don't know if they can. I'll do that. And we think we're being so self-righteous. We think we're being so great by thinking, oh, I'll sacrifice by being strong for someone else. We would fight from a position of strength. But Christ shows us the way to true victory is fighting from a position of weakness. He chose to take the lowest place, even death on a cross. You see players on TV, they'll do post-game interviews with crosses and on chains on the necks, right? They'll have it on there. They might not believe a lick of it, but they'll have it on their chest, right, all the time. But in Paul's day, no one wore a cross. No one wore a necklace. No one had crosses in their homes. No one had crosses on steeples. The cross was a scandal. The cross was a contradiction to human wisdom and power. Those in Philippi who were being persecuted, they didn't wear a cross if they followed Jesus because the cross seemed foolish. It seemed pointless. It seemed worthless. Why would you follow one who was crucified as a shameful criminal on the cross when you could follow Caesar, the conquering king? When you could follow the gods that were leading them to victory? Why would you choose the weakest, the lowest, the dying, the suffering instead of the victor? Yet for Jesus, it was essential to show that true love, True power, true strength isn't self-serving, but self-sacrificial. God works through the humble and the obedient who put others' needs above their own to bring victory. Philippians 2, verses 9 through 11 says, "Therefore God has highly exalted him and bestowed him the name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father." You see in the Bible this pattern over and over and over again. It's called, one writer calls it the J curve. You see a pattern of suffering and a pattern of exaltation. You see this pattern where you had to suffer and you have to come out of that suffering at your lowest point to be raised back up through the mercy and grace of God. Is that pattern in our lives that allows us to grow to be like Jesus? There's no other way. While we'd rather avoid the pain, comfort doesn't produce character, crucifixion does. You may win some small battles in your lives being strong on your own, but God brings us through suffering, through failure, through persecution, through tragedy, these small deaths we experience so we can experience greater victory in the end. The pattern is most fully expressed here in this verse is in the exaltation of Christ himself. Through weakness, through humility, through obedience, God brought him out of the tomb and onto the throne. We want the throne without the tomb, right? We want the success without the suffering. When Christ himself says, "You can't, I did it. How would you be any different than me? Why would I do that just so you can escape it?" No, because this is the way to live. To experience it so that you can grow in God. He who was the lowest was now lifted up and is now lifted up above all. He who was revealed at the end after the suffering, after the persecution, is revealed to be the great Yahweh, the great I am in flesh. His name is now on the lips of every name, above all single names, above every authority, every power in heaven and on earth. He is the supreme being over all others. He is the creator, the Lord, the ruler of heaven and earth, yet filled with such love that even though while he sits on the throne, he sees, he hears, he knows, rescues, and forgives us. Whew. There's no one like that. At his name, one day, every knee will bow. I take so much. Paul wrote this in part to comfort them. He said, yeah, you're experiencing persecution. Right now, you're being called to bow to other things. You're being called to bow to pressure. You're in the fight of your lives and you're losing. But one day, every knee will bow at the throne of Christ, that he will enter in and every knee will fall. He says this is important for us to understand because in the moment when the world is spinning out of control, where evil so often goes unpunished, where justice remains elusive, where it feels like you don't have any wins, those who follow Jesus rest in the truth that one day he will come and the entire created order will be under his lordship and his perfect rule and reign. Those who hurt now, who are losing now, who live humbly, fighting from a position of weakness, will one day be transformed into his likeness of glory at the end of all things. So when you read verses like Romans 8:37, where it says, no, in all these things we are more than conquerors, you cannot stop at conquerors. You have to continue reading, say, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. You have to read Psalm 23, 4, and 5, and we read it at funerals, and it's so solemn and peaceful when really it's a victory psalm. It says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, even though I'm in the middle of pain and suffering, I will fear no evil. Not because I am strong. What's the next part of that verse say? For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. For you prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. In the middle of tragedy, in the middle of despair, in the middle of losing, when you're weak, God says, I will make you strong through my strength. I will put a table in the middle of your enemies. While you feel you are surrounded by them, I am actually surrounding you. I am doing these things. You anoint my head with oil, God. You're the one who puts me and places me where I'm supposed to be. My cup overflows not because I'm greater and stronger and bigger and better and faster, but because I'm relying on you to fill me up. 1 Corinthians 15:57, we're going to end on this verse. But thanks be to God, Paul wrote to the Corinthians, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Not our victory, his, that he gives to us without any of us deserving it, yet he pours it out.